Music is a necessity across all cultures, not only a necessity for the listener, but for the creator as well. Music connects us. It allows us to have insight into cultures outside of our own and to feel connected on a global level. Growing up in a small town in South Georgia has led to me and so many other artists feeling limited. Artistic expression and experimentation is generally frowned upon and discouraged. The necessity is still there, though, and those who have something to express will continue to do so regardless of judgment. This documentary follows two local musicians who differ in so many ways in and outside of music, but share the common need to express. First, Jay Douglas, otherwise known as Jay Americana, will give us insight as to what has and continues to inspire him artistically.
What's up? My name's Jay Americana. I'm 24. Well, actually 23 right now, but by the time you see this, I'll probably be 24. And I'm a recording artist. As of right now, I'm working on my sophomore album called Even Stars Burn Out. It's the follow-up to my first album, Like You've Seen a Ghost, and this time around, I'm kind of trying to hone in on my roots as a person. I'm taking a lot of inspiration from like artists I grew up listening to, but also putting my own spin on it. So I'm taking cues from Missy Elliott and then adding some splish splashes of violin and these crazy unique sounds. I'm just so proud of this project right now because there's no two songs that sound the same. Yeah, I can't wait to put that out this fall.
If that's all I get, I'll see you in your dreams.
On the subject of roots and taking inspiration from them, for about 3, maybe 3.5 years, I spent some time in Atlanta, and that definitely helped cultivate who I am as an artist and introduced me to so many people, even people I had looked up to previously and idolized while I was living down here in Valdosta. And that time there gave me the opportunity to make so many connections and learn so many things, and I'm just eternally grateful for that experience. So many fun shows and DIY events that I got to play there, and I just can't wait until the day maybe I can get back to that.
Everything I want, but the last thing I need. You say that
You know, for me personally, a lot of my music is definitely inspired by other people, but at the same time, I'm taking cues from my own personal experience. Growing up in the South as a openly queer, very black man has given me its own series of conflicts and issues, whatever. But at the same time, there's something about my cultures that I appreciate so much, and I want to channel that energy and take cues from my ancestors in making my art as loudly and proudly as I do.
you keep on calling on me. I keep on falling for it. You keep on
It's been a little over 2 years since my last full-length album. In the time since, I've dropped a few songs here and there, but most of that time has been devoted to writing and trying to find out my ideas and what I really want to express on this new record. Like the last one, it's been a highly collaborative effort. I've got Bickle, I've got Adam, I've got my boy Ezra, and all of these people, I've just always felt so close with, where I don't see myself recording with or making music with anybody else. And it's been tedious, but it's been fun. Right now we're sitting at 7, maybe 8 tracks for the record. We've recorded in that time maybe 20 or so, but I really just wanted to focus in on these and keep it as short and sweet as possible. I've done a couple different sessions over the years, at home and in Atlanta and in New York, and I don't know, I feel like this is just one of those records, that really shows people who I am. So I can't wait to share it with people. young age, I've always appreciated music. I remember when I was 5 years old, one of the things I always watched, I had a DVD collection of Outkast music videos and performances. So I was every day, just watching that and taking cues. And I wanted to be Andre 3000 so bad. But, even back then, in the middle of class, I was like humming melodies and shit. And I was like, yeah, I'm JD. And then I was like, nah, maybe not that. And I went through so many different stage names. And it came to a point where I was really interested in writing. So I started writing poems, and then poems became lyrics. And eventually I just sought out, instrumentals to back up those songs. And that kind of put me where I am today. A lot of times for me, writing kind of starts with me just running an idea through my head constantly throughout the day, and then writing it down and trying to spin off of that, and trying to make it something full-fledged. It's a very disjointed process. I know a lot of people like to write songs in one go, but for me, they can take days, sometimes months, and I don't know, even sometimes I'm not completely satisfied with the songs I make in their initial drafts. So there are a lot of demos and things that I cut, and I may just eventually splash them together and try and make sense out of them.
Lowest we get most high. At our lowest, I stop and smell the roses. They'll believe you when you show them we get most high.
For me, I don't know if my music would be the same if I wasn't being my authentic self. I know a lot of people like to portray different personas and idealized versions of themselves within their music, and I get that's very fun and whatnot, but for me, being honest about who I am and what I've been through, I feel like that allows me to resonate more with my audience and remind these people that they're not exactly alone in being depressed or struggling with their identity or anything like that. And I feel like if we continually uplift marginalized voices within mainstream music, we'll have a larger positive effect on society as a whole.
Next, I spoke with John Paris about his upbringing and young adult life, and how that inspired the music he creates. He's been a part of the Valdosta music scene for decades now. He talked to me about not only his experience writing his music, but producing it as well, and the experience he's gained from other producers such as Mark Neal. His wide range of influences, as well as his love-hate relationship with the South, has allowed him to produce very unique music in a genre that is not often as celebrated as it should be.
Hey, my name's John Paris. I'm a musician and songwriter from Valdosta, Georgia. My band is named John Paris and Magnetic South. We've been a band for about 10 years, and I've performed music for probably 35 or 40 years. Technology has really come a long way in the years that I've been playing and recording music. When I first started out songwriting, like I talked about earlier, I would record things onto just a regular cassette player, and then eventually I got a cassette porta studio that had multiple tracks to do acoustic demos, and sometimes I would add other parts on top of it. The first time I went into a professional or high quality studio was in 1991 or so, and that was a fully analog studio where we recorded to tape, and that was a really exciting experience, and it sounded really good. And but digital came along, and at first the digital quality was not that great, and you could certainly hear that it didn't have the sort of liveliness and full tonality that analog recording did. In the last 10 years, digital quality has gone through the roof, and it's really exciting. And so now the last record that we did, even though we developed the arrangements and performances, in a much more organic and natural way, we still used digital recording and computer-based DAWs, which is an acronym for Digital Audio Workstation. So we would record into that, and then we'd be able to mix and master the project all inside the computer, which they call in the box. And so over the years, the last decade or so, I've used primarily the DAW called Cubase, and it's a really professional, full-functioning type of DAW program. I've also been playing with a new one recently called Reaper. That is a pretty simple program to use, and it's not quite as big of a resource hog. It doesn't use as much of your RAM on your computer as Cubase does. So we'll be trying that out. And as I mentioned earlier, we use a lot of digital drum programming because we don't have a drummer in the band right now. So we're actually composing using digital MIDI to build drum tracks, and then laying the songs out and rearranging them and selecting tempos and arrangement ideas through that. So technology is really helpful, and my own philosophy is to start out with good gear, the guitars and amps and keyboards, and do your best vocals and all that, and be sure that's dialed in, and then having really good outboard equipment, microphones and mic pre's and compressors and things like that to get a really great sound going into the computer. And then once you're in the computer, once it's called in the box, you can really use some amazing in-house effects that these programs come with to further manipulate the sound, and then to also get the balance or the mix of the different tracks really dialed in. So it's a lot of fun, and I feel like it's really technology, rather than being something that has been an adjustment or difficult. It's actually been very freeing, and makes building songs, and makes the whole creative process a lot more interesting, and it keeps me growing as an artist. So that's a lot of fun. I've been writing songs since I was a teenager and first learning how to play the guitar. I was really intrigued at that as a sort of a creative or expressive process for myself. And once I got into bands and was writing new material, it just basically we evolved from arrangements from the floor, with the band playing together, and just kind of writing and composing and arranging the songs that way, like a typical rock and roll band would do. In recent years, though, I've been using the computer a lot more, and we've actually been building and composing via building rhythm tracks through MIDI programs, MIDI drum programs, and then putting the component parts of the chords and the chordal structure on top of those computer drums. And it's been a lot of fun. It's really re-energized our creative process, and we essentially are doing pre-production when we're making demos instead of just playing as a band and then recording the band performance. We're actually listening back to the demos and adjusting the framework of the song, and the arrangements as we go. And so the computer has been a real boon to our creative process, and we've really enjoyed that. And it's been fun too to record guitars directly and try to make the guitars sound like a guitar through an amp, except where you're playing straight into the computer. So it's been really interesting, and I think that our new material is coming together really well. We've been working on about 14 or 15 new songs that are going to be demoed and essentially produced in that manner. Our last release was Motel Trance, and that was done via the old way, whereas I just presented a song on acoustic guitar to the band, and they worked up an arrangement. So this is a completely different workflow for us, and it's been a lot of fun. A lot of the things that influenced me over the years were not entirely musical. When I was a young boy, my parents exposed me to architecture and art and books and literature and music. So I was really intrigued by creative work and ideas and how to bring something out of nothing and how it could be so beautiful or challenging. And I think the earliest influence I had was probably listening to the Beatles and Ray Charles records when I was a really little boy, and also Simon and Garfunkel. My parents had all those different records, and it was really fun to listen to those bands and to be inspired by them and to hear the songcraft and the passion in their performances. So that was a lot of fun. When I got older, I really kind of discovered, I was always really into music and listened to a lot of different things, via the radio, but being from a small town in South Georgia, there weren't a lot of live performances to expose me to things. So I moved up to the Atlanta and Athens area right after college and saw just tons of really exciting performers, and I had a chance to actually meet and interact with some of the musicians that were pretty well known from the Athens scene, and a lot of them were really inspiring for me in terms of developing my own creative process and work, and seeing that just regular people from the South can be creative and do great things with music and everything. So that's been a lot of fun. And then after I had moved back down to Valdosta, there were a group of musicians called the Unknowns, and they actually had the studio that we did some of my first recordings with one of my early bands. We did there, and those guys, Mark and David and Craig, were really big influence on me. They taught me a lot about recording and exposed me to a lot of really great old music, and helped me see sort of to connect the dots between the different strands of music, going all the way back from early in the 20th century all the way up to the present day, and seeing those connections, and really, and then also how to approach my music in a way that was really fun and creative and interesting. So those guys were big influences, and I really enjoyed that, and it was really a neat time to be in Valdosta, and there were a lot of creative people here, and now with technology and the internet, it's easier for people from places that are off the beaten path to get discovered and get heard, and so there's a lot more opportunities and varieties for people to share their creative work, and so that's a lot of fun.
We all express ourselves every day. We're all passionate about something. All that separates an artist from an everyday individual is the materialization of these expressions. Art gives us an intimate look at the creator's perspective on all facets of existence. With the reputation that the South has, it is hard for those outside looking in to recognize the profound artistry that comes out of this part of the world. There's no denying the South's beauty and charm, as well as its reputation and history. These two very contradictory factors create a very diverse and complex representation of what it's like growing up in this part of the country. And I truly believe that this makes not only music, but all types of art from this part of the country worth cherishing and appreciating.